All right. So today we're learning Siman Tzadik Aleph. We'll try to get through as much as we can. As we already know, it's largely a repetition of Kofei, the very same principles of Kofei. In Kofei, it's a mix of non-kosher and kosher. Here, it's a mix of milk and meat. So there are various nuances that are milk and meat specific, and they all revolve around the fact, as you keep saying, milk and meat are inherently kosher. They're only non-kosher in their mixture. And that's what gives them their unique halacha status rather than kosher meat mixing with non-kosher meat, as we learned in Kufay. So that works both stringently with Hanan, that comes in Sadik Bays, 92, but it also works in other regards, um, in terms of like Tatogavar, El Gavar, and insulting, right? Okay, which we're going to get into. All right, so again, I'm reading and translating, but please chime in with what you remember and some thoughts. Basar Gvina, meat and cheese. That's somewhat hard. It's not a liquid. This is important because you might remember from the end of Tzaddik Aleph, end of 91. I remember because it's reviewed it before this year. But at the end of 91, the Ramah is going to write that raw meat, cold meat, if it has been cooked, that gets put into liquid full milk, could actually absorb completely if the milk is if the meat is has cracks, if it's like not cracks, if it's like
Porous.
not just porous, like meat can be like have like slats that are open, like
Yeah. I was talking about cheese that was
milk.
cheese that was open.
In the case in Zion, in Sif Zion, it's going to be meat that's put into milk.
Okay.
If the meat was already cooked, it's soft enough to absorb, then it actually does some absorption. So here it's cheese, right? Basar gvina, meat and cheese. Shenagu zebazeh touched each other. Because again, milk's going to have a separate din that will come later in Zion. Mutarim are still totally kosher. You have to wash off the place that they touched, the point of contact, because there's going to be a little bit of residue from the meat on the milk and from the meat and the cheese, and from the cheese on the meat, and therefore wash it off and you're good to go. Now, you can wrap them up in the same wrap as long as there is a membrane between them. So you can store milk and meat in the same fridge in close proximity as long as they're not physically touching each other. We're not concerned that they may touch each other, even though the next step we're going to learn that when they do touch each other, we're scared you're not going to forget to wash them off, and therefore you shouldn't let them touch each other. Here, because not actually touching each other, we're okay with you making them be next to each other as long as there's a barrier between the two. Kol midi, anything, the boy hadacha that requires rinsing bays, when bays, going, for example, laniach baser heter, you put kosher meat, tzainin that is cold, the kaira shall iser tzainin, that is on a plate that is prohibited. It's a non-kosher plate. It absorbs non-kosher food flavor. Tzainin, and the plate is cold. So it's cold kosher meat on a cold non-kosher plate, which only requires rinsing, as the previous sif, where two things touch each other that are cold. They only require rinsing. Nonetheless, also lechatchila, it is prohibited to do so to begin with in the first instance, to put them on. To ma'achal, beloy hadacha, lest you eat them forgetting to wash them off. And if don't put it there. So don't use cold tray-fed dishes or leave food directly on your Airbnb countertop. Even if it's more than ben yoimai? Presumably if it's more than ben yoimai, maybe not. I don't know. Good question. Let's see if they say anything. I don't know. Doesn't mention, but I assume it's not ben yoimai. Okay. Nonetheless, shouldn't put it on to begin with, lest you forget to eat it without washing. And therefore, the dafka mavushal, this is specific when it comes to a cooked piece of food. It's not the custom. People don't usually wash their cooked foods. You don't rinse it off. And therefore, we're worried you're going to forget to rinse it off before you eat it, and therefore don't put it on that plate. but something that's ordinarily washed, could go in basar chai like raw meat, and the like. Shari lechatchila, it's totally fine. So if you stopped here, you would say totally fine to put a kosher steak that is raw on your Airbnb countertop because you're going to wash it off anyway before you eat, before you grill it. Sorry, no milk. You can put your kosher raw steak on your Airbnb countertop. We're going to see in a second that I'm going to qualify this, but if we stopped here, that would be the halacha. Because you're going to rinse it off anyway. Don't put the cooked one because you're unlikely to rinse it off and we're afraid you're going to forget to. But with the raw steak, you're going to rinse it before you grill it anyway. So, no problem. But says the Rama, Vadafka specifically, Shiesh bo lachluchas ksas. If it's the kind of thing that has some liquid, like meat, which has some, what's the word?
Moisture.
Moisture, thank you. Because it's moist, we're afraid it's gonna, something that's left over from the non-kosher on the bottom is gonna be stuck, and you didn't wash it off. There's a problem. Aval davar yavish, but something which is dry, mamish, literally, completely dry, cake, and you're putting it on a plate that is non-kosher, or you're putting it on the Airbnb countertop. Now it says that I'm a qualification. Im loy bala klirak b'tzoinen. If the plate that you're putting this cake on, or the countertop, only absorbed non-kosher by cold, how would it absorb something non-kosher by cold? How would you absorb something kosher by cold?
Soaking?
Sorry? Soaking. It's soaked for 24 hours, so it absorbs non-kosher flavor. Then, mutter, it's okay. Then you can put that thing down if it's completely dry without washing it. Which means you should not, according to the Rama, put your cold piece of meat that's raw on your Airbnb countertop. Because that Airbnb countertop probably absorbed something that was hot.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the implication?
Yeah.
If you did post factum, rinse it off. But l'chatchila doesn't seem like you should. Correct?
So here we're saying soaking is not like cooking with regard to vessels.
Soaking is not like cooking with regard to vessels. When did we have that? No, it does. It absorbs, just doesn't extract. No,
Right.
you can even no. When it came to extract, the Taz said that it's 24 hours later, so the flavor is already negative. But it does
Right.
extract. It would extract flavor. Certainly absorbs flavor. You're referring to Hanan.
Yeah.
When Keli doesn't become Hanan, but the food that's absorbed in the Keli could become Hanan. Right? Okay. So let's work through this. Right? Did we get that short through that? Am I right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't put cold, dry stuff onto a countertop that was likely absorbed with hot, non-kosher. Right? And that seems, and this is the way the Tach and the Shaz explain, that even if the countertop was clean, was washed. Seems to be very strong.
The said that you could place it, but if it was clean, you're allowed to place it, just not as a permanent place, just temporarily.
Not in the first instance. Oh, he says you can do it quickly, right? Take it off quickly.
That's what he says. So
yeah.
let's say you want to put your meat down on the counter.
Yeah.
That's fine because you're not leaving it on the counter. You're putting it down temporarily to clean your hands.
But you have to wash it off after anyway.
Yes.
But it seems from the Ramah that you shouldn't do that. Even if the counter is clean. If the counter is dirty, then for sure you shouldn't do that to begin with.
Yeah, but saying if it's clean.
But the Ramah seems to be implying that even if it's clean, you shouldn't do that to begin with.
The counter will apply to any vessels, any
plate, yeah.
Plates, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just using that counter as an example.
Yeah.
But the plate you find in the Airbnb, for that matter.
A plate can also be like a cup or like a pot.
Same thing, yeah. Same thing, yeah. Okay. Gimel. Sorry, one should be very careful. One should not have their meat touch bread. Shemiga boy, if you touch it, if the meat touches the bread, it's going to be impossible for the bread not to absorb, to have some residue from the meat, and it's going to be difficult, or certainly you would not want to, or you forget to wash off the bread, right? Ordinarily, you have to wash it, right? bread and cheese touch, you wash them off and eat them. So bread and meat touch, and you want to eat the bread with cheese, you have to wash off that bread. That's a very unlikely scenario. Even if you did remember that that piece of bread happened to be a meat bread. So it's on two accounts, as the Mefarshim here say, on two accounts one shouldn't make bread touch meat. Because the bread, A, you're not going to wash it, B, you forget. And therefore, you should, because also likewise, same thing in reverse. Bread should not touch cheese. Also because once the bread touches cheese, you cannot eat it with meat. Which means, therefore, obviously, if you're slicing up bread for that meal, and you're going to be eating it now, then obviously you can do that. The Shulchan Aruch is not saying you can't have cheese melt,
If you
right?
use dairy,
Or even not cheese melt, just a cheese sandwich, a cold cheese sandwich. It's not what it's saying, right? But so you can have cheese touch bread if you're going to be eating it now. But if it's not going to be eaten now, you're cut up that much or whatever, then you should not. This is only really relevant for challah.
So if you slice your challah and you know it didn't touch anything, it's sat only on the challah board the whole meal. There's slices that never went
But there's the
anywhere.
point. That's the point. Be very careful there. That's the point. To be careful about the bread that's sitting on your table during meat time, because you're going to put it in your Ziploc bag and you don't want to have it at Matzah Shabbos as a cheese melt.
So if you know for sure, I mean, but there's also the
Didn't
knife.
touch any bread, then no problem.
What about the knife?
Which knife? Your bread knife shouldn't be fleshik. You use your bread knife to slice meat too. Your challah knife you use for meat? I don't.
no.
Thing.
It's
What
only
time
used for
you have
challah.
the thing cut meat?
With the challah knife? Very unlikely.
By Shabbos challah.
What is likely is if you can't find your challah knife, you'll use your serrated regular
Yes.
fleshik knife.
100%.
Now you're running into a problem. Yes, but if you use your regular challah knife, which is very unlikely it's used for meat. So at my house, I don't think it's ever used for meat ever. It's this massive big knife. It'd be so inconvenient to cut me with that. Right? If anything, sometimes I cut the bread with the meat knife. That happens. But if you're cutting with the regular challah knife, I wouldn't see an issue with having the cheese melt on that challah later. If you know that didn't touch meat throughout the meat.
Just that's the question.
Which means be careful about that. If you have to be, or like
If you
the
use
challah. Let me make it this way: if you're leaving behind little pieces of challah around the table during the meat time, probably don't have that with
Yes.
cheese. But at the end of your salad thing, you're emptying taking the challah trays out, which is like usually the case. Like your challah goes with the salads and the dips, and then it comes off the table. That challah is no problem to eat Matzah Shabbos. I don't see an issue.
my question is, so
If you use your regular part of a challah
there
knife,
is an issue though if you use a meat knife or a dairy knife to cut the challah.
yes, then there would be an issue if you use the bread or meat knife.
Okay, but it's only the place where it comes in contact with.
You have to
So
slice.
if
You have to
slice
remove the
hard,
edge.
then if you slice the next slice with a hard knife, you're back to normal.
Correct.
Yeah.
You feel it. Yeah, you feel it. Yes, but that seems to be correct. Okay, Daled. Basar b'chalav roitchin. Hot or scalding bus meat and milk. Shenis arvu yachad that have mixed together. Afilu basar tzoinin l'toich chalav roitch. Even if your meat is cold and it went into hot milk, so the bottom is the hot one. In this case, milk. Or the reverse, chalav tzoinin, cold milk l'toich basar roitch into hot meat. Meat, the hot is on the bottom. In this case, meat. All is forbidden, as we already know, because mishum de tata gavar, the below overpowers, and in this case, the below is either meat or milk, respectively, and it's hot, and therefore it causes full cooking, and thus all is forbidden unless you have nullification by 60, but otherwise it's all forbidden. But chalav roitech, now if it's reverse. If the hot is on top, chalav roitech, it's hot milk on top. Shenafal al boltzertain, and it falls onto cold meat that's on the bottom. Or the reverse, basar roitech, hot meat. Shenafal, it's falling down. The chalav tzoinin into cold milk. So now it's tata gavar, the below is overpowering, the below is cold, and therefore all it does is it causes a transfer. It's only at the surface layer. Yeah. And therefore, we have to also remember what I mentioned by Sif Aleph, it's going to come up in Sif Zayin, which is if this is cooked meat that has cuts in it, it might absorb more, as we will see. But in this case, the below is hot. So the below is cold, top is hot. So koilef habasar, you peel the meat, the rest of the meat is mutter. Comes the Rama, and gives us a major leniency. Sorry. Where is it? Well, Malcolm Shabbos said sort of klipa, and in some instance where the meat requires peeling in like kalfu, you didn't peel it, ubishtan, you cooked it kach like that. Mutter, but the evidence post factum it's mutter. Right? What's the reason? And this is true even if you don't have 60 times the peel. Why? Because it's really a stringency, and the stringency is only an effect of the peel, not the rest of the meat, which would seem to mean that after you cook the meat, you may want to peel it then. You might have to. I believe that that's the case. Is that right? So the rest of the meat is kosher, but it doesn't mean that you don't, but that you shouldn't peel. Your obligation to peel didn't disappear, right?
And if you're gonna cook it, then
So yeah?
it's gonna go all over.
So that, but it's going to go all over. But nonetheless, the prohibition of keeping that peel, I think, still remains. If I remember correctly, right? Anybody remember?
For what? Cold and cold, or
No. It's hot piece of meat going into cold cheese, to cold milk. Tata gavars. It only goes into
a peel?
a surface appeal. You forgot to peel. It says this Rama,
Oh, and you cook
and you cooked it. The meat is kosher. Do you still have to peel it
Yeah.
afterwards?
Oh yeah, but
You still, but you have to still peel the meat afterwards.
It says, however, if the surface layer which absorbed milk is still noticeable, there must be 60 times its amount in the rest, even b'diavad.
That's the Taz's view. That's the Shach's view. The Ramah didn't say that though. The Ramah seems to imply even if you don't have 60, it's still fine. You're right. The Shach says you have to have 60 against that peel, otherwise you're a problem.
Right, and Taz says it's forbidden.
But Taz says,
It's
what?
Forbidden.
What's forbidden?
Just to. Oh no, sorry, that's somebody else. That's
No.
something else.
The Shach says that you have to have 60 against, but others disagree.
Yeah, some say okay,
The Taz also says that, right? You have to have 60 in the milk. You have to have 60 in the rest of the. Sorry. No. That's with respect to the milk. You have to have 60 in the milk against the rest, against what would have been the peel. That's something else. That's a different machlokes. Sorry, that's different machlokes. There's two different issues here. One is the meat, one is the milk. The milk is liquid, so you cannot peel it. The question is, what happens with that?
Yeah.
That's one machlokes. We spoke about that machlokes are those that say that since there's no issue of peeling, forget it, it's all mixed up, it's good to go. Others say, no, only if you have 60 times the amount of what would have been a peel. Right? Or at least 60 times the amount of the peel of the meat, let's say. Right? That was one machlokes. The other machlokes is now, the other issue is the meat. You cook the meat that you were supposed to peel. Said that I'm all fine, your meat's okay.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have 60 in your meat against the peel of the rest of the meat, which you should have peeled. Now, good. Do I have to peel the meat now after I cooked it? Yeah. Well, first of all, there are those who disagree with this, by the way, to begin with. There are those who are of the view that the peel is usher even b'diavad, not like the Ramah. Taz and others, right? That's first of all.
What's saying that it's.
But in this case, the peel has to be removed. So if there wouldn't be shishim against the peel, and one would cook it, then potentially the whole thing would become.
Sorry?
Right.
So in that case, if the surface wasn't removed and it was cooked, and it wasn't shishim against the surface, then
Say that again, sorry?
according to the Taz, like you're saying, if there wasn't shishim against the surface layer, and
So what's 60 against the surface layer, and you cooked it?
the isser, so the isser would.
So that he would say it's a problem. He'd say he would say it's not allowed.
The whole thing.
And the whole thing we have to throw out, right? There are those who also want to say that it depends on how you came to the conclusion that you need to peel. Is it because like this case where the hot thing went into the cold thing, or it's because you had either something poured, maybe over there will be more lenient with the Evid, because it's not a direct contact like it was here. Right, okay. Let's keep going. Yeah?
Yeah.
V'acholov said the Shulchan Aruch, "Kol mutar kuloi."
Take a note, but just take a note to get back to it.
On what? Which question?
On the meat of the peel.
You have to peel it after it's cooked. It doesn't seem like that.
Okay.
I wouldn't think so,
It
because
seems the answer is no.
Okay.
You don't have to because you're right, because the whole thing's mixed through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why the milk, because it's only a chumrah. See, the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah are saying that the whole peel thing is a chumrah, and therefore, if you cooked it afterwards, okay, forget it. And the milk that you can't peel, forget it. It's fine. Right? Whereas others take it much more seriously and say, hold on a second, you have to have 60 in the milk against the whole meat. And you have to, and if you cook the thing without peeling it, the whole thing becomes usher. So following that logic, those who are like the Shulchan Aruch and Amar of the view that the whole peel is a stringency, then once you cooked it, forget it, it's over, it's fine, it's done. You have to peel it afterwards.
Did he rinse
Well,
it?
it's just, sorry?
So there was no rinsing and no peel. So
No.
But then you literally have basar chalav mixed together, cooked together.
Because the bottom was cold, it never transferred flavor.
No, it's milk, right? Milk.
But it could be left on it. You didn't rinse it either.
Also,
You didn't rinse it either.
Rinse the meat. It's not like you rinse the meat.
also, it doesn't see.
You're right, good point. You didn't even rinse it.
You need to rinse it. Okay, fine. One thing you don't see, you don't. I agree.
Okay, I'll tell you. So I'll tell you. If you cooked it like that, then whatever residue of milk left behind is for sure nullified.
You can't. Yeah.
Oh,
No, but you can't see the.
You can't even see.
Be there.
If this is bad, if you can see it for sure, you can't do it. But you can't see it anymore. Right? Any issue be'en is not bottle. If you can actually see the piece, it's not bottle. So you see pieces of milk there, obviously it's not bottle. But you can't see any pieces of milk, and you cooked it like that. It didn't absorb any flavor because the bottom was cold.
Right. Okay.
So you're right. It sounds like a very serious kula, serious leniency. But again, others who are more strict who take the peel very seriously. Has the peel actually absorbed? And if you have to actually get rid of the peel, or you have to have 60 in the milk against what would have been the peel, and if you cook the meat without the 60%, 60 times to the peel, the whole meat's non-kosher.
Okay.
And it seems like the majority are of the stringent view, Prima Gadim and others.
Oh, that they shouldn't.
Not like the Shulchan Aruch and Ramah, which are lenient, that's saying post factum is fine.
Okay.
Okay.
See pay.
1 second, final line in Daled. If they fell into each other cold, you rinse off the milk and rinse off the meat, and it's fine. Your milk is fine anyway, because even if the meat was hot, it would have been fine. Certainly, the meat being cold is fine, but in the case of the meat, you have to rinse off the meat. And again, we'll come to Siv Zion with respect to. Keep on going back to this because the Rama is going to qualify all this.
Yeah.
That the cold meat doesn't absorb by going into milk is only if the meat is raw, was never cooked, and doesn't have any of those porous open slats that would absorb. If it does, or actually if the meat was already spiced,
Yeah. Okay.
it also causes absorption even if it's raw, as we'll learn in Siv Zion. So to keep that in mind as we go through all these halachas. Hey, Maliyach.
Right. It's talking about a fresh piece of meat.
Yes, right.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what it says there in English.
No.
That's what it is. A fresh piece of meat, correct? Because once it's cooked, as we'll see in Siv Zion, the halacha is different. Okay, Maliyach. A salted piece of meat. It is so deeply salted that it cannot be eaten. Okay, the Ramah is going to qualify that. We already know this.
That's
But
argues,
sorry,
Then Ramah argues. He says.
Ramah says even lesser salt. But let's go to Shulchan Aruch right now. It's so deep, salted you can't even eat it. Tahainu, what's the level of that? Ke'ein maliyach shemochlim l'kadera. Similar to the salt they required to cook meat. We're going to learn the laws of malicha, which if the person learned the Shulchan Aruch in order, he already learned that. But we're going to learn it later, that there are 2 levels of salting. One level of salting is, let's back up. The process of salting is to extract the blood that is prohibited. Now, when you cook something, we're learning here, the whole halachas, the pores open and the blood comes out as well. So cooking meat is another form of extracting blood. But if you're cooking meat in a pot, then all that blood stays in the pot and you're eating it. It goes back into the meat. Right? It becomes part of your mixture. So that would be no good. What if I'm grilling meat? So the pores open and the blood comes out, but it doesn't go back to the meat. It flows down into the fire below. So says the halacha, absolutely, that is a totally valid way of getting rid of the blood. But you have to do some salting. Not the full depth salting, but some salting. Right? But if you want to cook that meat in a stew, then you have to have full salting. And that's what this is. You're salting it enough to get rid of blood so that you can later cook it in a pot. Because if you were grilling it, you wouldn't need that full salting. Which means, it's just kosher meat is much saltier than other meats. Right? But the steak that you're buying in the grocery and then putting on your grill is salted more than necessary for your grill. Because for your grill, really, the grill itself is taking out half the blood. So you only need a little salting. So if you went to your shaychet and said, I'm grilling the steak, can you please not salt it completely? You might have a juicier steak.
I know.
I only once had it.
One day is MTC.
No, I once had it because I was live at a shaychet.
No, you said.
And we had a thing. So I was able to have that once. And it's like a little juicier. Anyway. Time is Hazard. Calls mine, what?
The liver. You have to grill it anyway.
Well, not the one with
For the liver.
Well, also the liver anyway, you have to grill.
Right, well, it's Shesi Veiriv,
Yeah, then you have to grill it.
right? To get even more out, yeah. Good English. Yeah, you're learning, I'll take your word for it. Calls, okay,
The liver,
so
it makes everything trait. I mean, everything you're using with it. It
Yeah,
steeps
you have
out
to have
the
a-
blood. You have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
have a special set that. And the
But you have to grill it. You can't put salt. You
yeah,
have to grill it.
you have to whatever.
no, Shesi Veiriv is for the
For
kal.
the
For kal, sorry?
for the jar, neck.
And for the kal,
The udder.
the udder. Right, also requires Shesi Veiriv. Okay, so the person salted it so much, that's like that, similar to the halachic salting of making the meat ready for a pot of meat, for a stew. Now, continues the Shulchan Aruch, V'shal kadei malach l'kadera, and it sat soaking in that salt for as long as it takes to extract all the blood out when you want to prepare it for cooking for a pot. So, kol zman shelo yedicha, which is about 18 minutes. Kol zman shelo yedicha, so long as you have not washed off the salt, mikri ein enach machas malchay. The salt, this meat is considered so salty you cannot eat it. Okay, so you cover it in salt like you would salting meat for kosherizing, left it for 18 minutes, and you haven't washed the salt off yet, that's the meat we're talking in question.
It has to be 18 minutes.
It's a v'shar kalei malicha, and it sat there for as long as it would take for the bulk for the bulk to extract. We're going to see a different opinion on that soon, which is the Ramal right now. And those say there are those that say once it sits in salt past the amount of time, that 18 minutes. It's not considered scalding now because it's already stopped extracting. It's already cooled off. It's not extracting anymore. Right? It's only for those 18 minutes, not from the 18 minutes forward, but only during those 18
That makes
minutes.
sense.
Yeah, machlekes.
Yeah.
Let's start at Gadol, and in a big case of big need, like for example, great loss. So this mitzvah, and it's for the sake of a mitzvah. Two conditions. We gave this example when we looked at it at the time. You have a bris, and you have a bunch of chicken that were salted together, right? No problem. Sorry, they were salted. They were salted separately from each other. Sorry, and then later, after they've already sat in the salt for 18 minutes, then you mix them all together, and it turns out that one of these chickens turns out to be a treifa, punctured lung. Yeah. So yesh this mechal makilin. You can be lenient and say, 18 minutes are over. It's no longer extracting any flavor, and we'll rinse off all the salt, and we'll get rid of the one that's a treifa and eat the rest of them.
So it'll be bottle if we say it's no longer liquid, not transferring, it's bottle b'roiv, we're saying? Or is it?
No, because it's no longer transferring flavor from one to the other.
Okay.
I'm saying after.
So if it was mixed during the 18 minutes and it's transferring flavor, you can't do anything. But if it's after the 18 minutes, you have astringency. You have the astringency of the Shulchan Aruch, which says that it's still giving off flavor. The leniency that Ramah says no, it stops giving off flavor now at this point already. Okay. But without these two conditions, that it's a great monetary loss and it's a mitzvah, a sudas mitzvah, in lahakal cloud, do not be lenient at all. Now, Rama Chumra, even if the meat wasn't salted on both sides. It was only salted on one side. So long as it's salted to the point that's inedible, it's considered hot, even on the side that's unsalted.
Okay.
Even on the side that's unsalted. But if something that wasn't salted to that degree, it's like salted. Not to that degree. It's considered cold. Even if we're salted on both sides. And if it touches something else, rinse off and you're good to go. That's considered cold. However, and this is how there are more rules. There are those that say, we're not sufficiently proficient in this to know exactly where's the line between salty that you can't eat it and salty the regular. And therefore, even if you salted it, the amount of salt required for it to go on the grill, which is much, much less, right? Kosherizing before it puts on the grill, you still treat it as if it's hot and transference of flavor. We actually have another astringency. of we don't know the difference between one and the other. What's another stringency?
Lean and fat.
Lean and fat. And therefore, when we learn that salted meat, if one is fat, it causes transference the whole way, and not right.
That's right.
Then
So the Ramah is strict, which
the Ramah is strict.
lenient, yeah.
How about in both things?
Yeah. What about double leniency? I know it's lean,
Yeah.
and I know it's not so salty. So if it was one versus or the other, maybe I would be stringent. If both together would I be stringent?
Well, those same concepts.
I think by Hefsim we're lenient, right? That's what we learned.
Yeah, but they're
Remember correctly.
different concept. They're not like
No, because two things. One is we don't know the difference between salty and not salty. And one is we don't know the difference between fatty and not fatty. If I'm not mistaken, both together we have some mitzvah. Someone remember that?
that makes sense.
If I remember correctly.
She's strict and so.
I know, but if I remember correctly, it was written clearly, right? Nobody?
No.
Hold on one second. Let's see. It was Malicha. Okay, yeah, here, one second. We learned Kofei. I see we learned it. Let's see where Maliach is in Kofei. Makom Hesti. Kasar Mash, Makom Hesti, Meravish, Laklas, Nuchala, Ikadish, Minoko, Hashas, Asara Klipa. That's right. So you don't even need the two things. As long as you know it's, if it has to be plus lean, it's already enough.
Yeah.
Has to be plus lean is already enough. You don't even need both of them. That's what I remembered. So you don't even need both of them. One is enough. Okay, let's keep going. So now, table you should be stringent when you don't have a great loss, right? Again, so there you go. So here too, right here we have it. If it's okay, this is not the get lean. This has been a get two. Okay, so hefsim plus either of them would be enough. Hefsim plus, I know it's not fully salted. Okay, hefsim plus, I know it's not. I know it's lean. Okay, but if it's not hefsim then I got to treat lean as if it's fatty, and not hefsim I got to treat not so salted as if it's fully salted. Okay, maliach ke'ein. Maliach. Okay, so in this case, said the Shulchan Aruch, we consider it as what? As if it's scalding. Now, what if Maliach? Now, next case, even more strict salting. Maliach, the boiler lower. If you're salted so much that you're salting it for preservation, excuse me. So in the case of salting to the point of kosherizing, said the Shulchan Aruch, once you wash it off, it's okay. It's considered cold. Now the case of salted so deeply that it's for preservation, even after you wash it off, it's still too salty to be eaten.
Yeah.
To be eaten. And therefore, so long as you haven't soaked it in water to restore its original flavor and get rid of all the salt flavor, then it's considered hot and scalding. Yeah.
Because you're using like 5 times long, like you're using a lot more.
And it's sitting there forever not long. Yeah. So then, lesser could klipa to cause transference of at least a klipa, at least of a peel, because it's like hot to that degree. It makes a difference if the top one is salted and the bottom one is not salted. Whether the bottom one is salted with tafel elyon and the top one is unsalted. Salt will always cause flavor to be exfoliated to that which is raw, but will not absorb from that which is raw. It will give flavor to that which is raw, but not absorb to that which is raw. Top or bottom doesn't make a difference. Does that match up with kofei? In kofei where the machlokes Ramah and Mechaber, if we say tatog over b'maliach, right?
Yeah.
And remember?
Yeah, the Mechaber says yes. The
Mechaber said yes, difference between top and bottom, and Ramah said no difference top and bottom. Here, the serious saying no difference top and bottom. Yeah, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yes, the Shach points it out that later in Kofei, the Rambam makes a distinction. All right. Hilchot, therefore, therefore, salty meat and cheese, that both touch each other. So they're both salty, and therefore they're both causing the other to take flavor from it. So you have to peel both of them at the point of contact. If one is salted and the other one is not salted, the salty one is totally kosher, just wash it off because it only has a contact issue, not an absorption issue, because the salt does not extract flavor from the other thing to bring it into it.
Oh, yeah.
A tuffle tzarech klipa, and the one that's raw requires a peeling because the salt has power to give off into the next. Says Shulchan Aruch. We always do 60 to the ratio by salt because again, we know the difference between
And fatty.
lean and fatty. And because fatty has a capacity, fatty liquid has a capacity through salting to transfer completely from one to the next. And we know the difference between salt and lean and fatty. We are stringent in all salting to require 60 against the absorbed flavor.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
they both cancel each other out?
Explain again.
Wouldn't they cancel each other out? The lean and the fatty and the salting, like we just said, because you don't know which the meat is. Like if you're doing lean or fatty meat versus salting and non-salting.
You're saying because of double stringency?
Yeah.
That's what I was suggesting earlier, but you don't even need that because hefsim and in each one, you're fine. Right?
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah. I was suggesting that, and I think somewhere in my head it's still there. So if someone finds it, I'd like to see it. But because somewhere in my head, I remember that thing. But I don't remember where. Okay, maybe. Okay. Let's go forward. If they are dry, which means no liquid whatsoever. Oh, sorry, I skipped, sorry. Now, and that which we said that kosher salted, the tameh tuffle, and non-kosher raw unsalted shorty is okay because salt doesn't have the ability to extract flavor from the other food. It only has power to give off flavor into the other food. And if we said it's okay because the kosher is the one that's salted and it's not going to take flavor from the non-kosher and bring it into itself. Hainu says that if to qualify, this is only true Shatama Yavish, where the non-kosher food is dry. If it's a liquid, so you have salty kosher meat going into what's that? Not tallow. What's the non-kosher? Lard, liquid lard. Yeah. Nesa tar, the prohibited will absorb. Why? Because it's so salty that it cannot be eaten because of the salt. But it absorbs. The point is, I think this is the point. If I'm understanding correctly, this is how I understand it. Because it's going into something liquidy, by dint of the fact that the salt's going to the liquidy, it's already making the liquid salty, and thus will absorb from the salt from the liquid too. Only when there's no liquid there, you cannot rely on the salt to make the other item so salty that it will extract liquid to put it into it. But here, it doesn't have to do the work of extracting liquid from the next thing. It's already liquid. And now you just stuck it in with salt, it's going to absorb.
Salt's going to go from the forbidden.
Because the salt's already now, the salt's interacting with the forbidden as much as it's interacting with the kosher when it falls in. And therefore, we're going to pull in that flavor. If it's raw, if it's dry, so what you're requiring the salt to do is you're requiring the salt that's on the kosher piece to be so strong that it's going to extract flavor from a dry something else and then pull it into it. But when the other thing is liquid, it doesn't have to do that much effort. So it will absorb. Following? If you have meat, 2 pieces of, right? So this is salty, salt, yeah, and now it's touching. Yeah. So this salt is making this produce liquid.
Yes.
Now, if this is kosher, this is not kosher. Now you want the salt that's on here to be so strong that it's going to cause this thing to extract liquid and then put it back into there. That's not happening, right? But what if you take this and you dumped it right into non-kosher liquid?
I would absorb.
Then it will absorb, even though this is not salty and this is the salty one and this is the kosher one and this is not kosher one.
Right.
It's still going to absorb because it's going into liquid. It doesn't have to work that hard to do it.
So what if what I'm saying? So I'm saying the salt on the kosher one,
Yes,
make a layer of liquid, and then the non-kosher one goes on top of it. If the non-kosher one's not liquid, there's no transference.
no transference. That's right.
Okay. But there's some liquid on the non-kosher.
Okay, here he says it's solid, right, which means it's liquidy, not just liquid. It's like liquidy. That's why I use the example of lard. You're dipping into liquid.
Right.
So then it doesn't have to work to get that extraction. It's going to have it right away to absorb from that flavor. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The Shnei Masurim, both of them are prohibited. I guess if one is milk and meat. Dafka shatar lach tzas, but only if the kosher one is somewhat liquidy.
Okay.
But if it's completely dry and it still will not absorb from the thing that's it's. This is the point. It's liquidy because the salt already caused extraction.
Mhm.
So once the salt caused extraction, so it's a little bit liquidy, that means the pores are open. Now when you dump it into cold, when you dump it into liquid non-kosher, it's going to absorb the non-kosher because it already is liquidy, which means its pores are already open, and it's being dumped into a liquid, it's going to absorb. Right? But if it doesn't get to the point where it's producing its own liquid, which means the pores are not open, then it's just cold and cold. Yeah. Okay. Then maybe Veshim, if the two, back to Shulchan Aruch, if the two pieces next to each other are completely dry, afilim meluchim, even if they're salty, or lachem, or they're liquidy, but they're not liquidy because the salt started to cause liquid, which means the salt has not done its job yet to extract any flavor. Sagi badacha, it's enough to rinse it off. Or actually,
after salted. It could be after. It doesn't matter. It says before
Yeah.
it's salted or after.
No,
it's
it's after, even after, yeah.
Yeah.
Even after it was salted. But
So-
each one on its own, each one on its own was salted. And it's dried up. Right?
Right. So the
And you washed it off. But it's liquid, then it's still fine.
right. So the liquid
Because
can't be from the salt.
correct.
So
Liquid's
it has to
liquid's
be
not from the salt, that's the point.
Another liquid on it. Okay.
Correct. Then it would be just rinsing. But if the liquid is from the salt, then that means it's still actively absorbing and exfoliating.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Cold sear. Any brine, mibasa shenimlach, what's produced by the meat that's been salted.
Mhm.
So you salted meat and it's extracting all this liquid. Even if you only salted it, you didn't salt it so extremely that it would be salted enough that you can put it into a pot. You're doing the lower level of salting, kosherizing,
Right.
just enough to grill it. So, but it still produces liquid. That liquid, choshev rotech, is considered hot, even if the meat from which it came is no longer considered hot because it's already cooled down from the salting process.
Uh-huh.
But that brine that came out, it's an extraction of salt, and it is salty. That's how it's been produced. So it retains the salt hot scalding status, even though the meat from which it was extracted is now stopped being active.
It's cold also. They said even
It's cold, even if it's cold, but it's considered scalding as the halach of scalding.
exactly.
Yeah. Therefore, in nafal tzir al dvina, if the juice that was extracted from the salt, it was extracted from the meat via the salt, drips onto cheese, oyal kli, or onto a vessel, oyser, it prohibits it. Even if the meat itself, if it were to touch that cheese, it wouldn't cause any problem. It would just mean to rinse it off because the meat's no longer active in its production of exfoliating liquid thanks to salt. It's done that already. It touched cheese, so all you need to do is rinse it off. But that liquid that pulled out is still active from the salt.
Mhm.
Right? The leneshev reitav, because the meat is no longer considered scalding from mikol, unless hatzir chashiv. The brine, the liquid that was produced by that salt, is considered inedible as per the salt, and thus, as the halach of reitach, and thus would cause absorption at least to a surface layer. Or if it's, we don't know, fatty or not fatty, would cause full absorption, according to the Ramah. Sear basar, now brine that's been from the meat that's been extracted by salt, sha'oiser, which prohibits now, shenafal ala kli, which falls onto a vessel, tzarech hagol, you got to kosherize that vessel, because you cannot peel a vessel, or at least be very difficult to do so. And therefore, we'll see in cases where you can. And if it is earthenware, which cannot be kosherized, it's got to be broken. But if it only fell into one little drop of your wooden vessel, or some other material like that, let's say plastic, you can peel off that spot and that's enough. And in essence, it's only a peel issue because salt only causes a peel unless the thing is fatty. Your spoon is not fatty, and therefore it'll only cause absorption to surface layer. And therefore, if you can get away with peeling it, made it of plastic or wood, you can do that. Otherwise, it requires kosherizing. Whoa. What time is it now? Are we actually going to finish this?
I think we are.
Ooh, let's do it. Double speed now?
Yeah, well, it's not that much left.
Not that much left. Vav. Hey, Chadam Minon, Deino Yisrael Kli Klipa. When do we say that salting only causes absorption as through a surface layer? When neither of the species are fatty. Because if one was fatty, everything would become prohibited. The other one would also be fatty because of the fat that suffuses throughout both. And again, Rama of the view that we don't know the difference between fatty and lean, so all salting in contact is treated fatty, transference all the way, unless of course it's like chametz on Pesach, where the chametz is completely dry, completely, right? It's only if it's shaykh to be liquidy, then I say I don't know the difference between fatty and liquidy, fatty and lean. But if it's not possible to even be fatty, like completely dry stuff that Rama said in Kofei, then we only go surface layer. Vav, oh sorry, Zion. This is the important Zion. We kept them referencing. That's distinction that we just made between that which is so salty and I cannot eat it, and therefore causes a diffusion of a surface layer according to the Shulchan Aruch, and that which is salty but not so salty, and all that's required is a rinsing off. Because according to the Shulchan Aruch, if it's not so inedible by salting, then it's considered cold, and you just rinse. This is all true if the meat was raw. If it was grilled and now it's scalding hot, and now fell onto that which is salty cheese. Even if the salt is not so tense that it can't be eaten, it's just a little salty. It requires a surface layer because the top one is, even though usually the tatag gavar, the below overpowers, and the below overpowers would cool off the one on top, but because it's some salt, at least a little transference, only a surface layer. But here's the kicker. If there is, kaim literally means crevices. Like if you have a cooked steak, you lift it up, it would be like it would look like the steak would open like an accordion, right? Like it open up and down like an accordion. So you have those I don't know what the word for it is. How do they translate Bekoyim there? Crevices, what do they call? How do they translate?
Slits.
What?
Slits.
Slits. Okay, slits. We'll take that word. So if it has slits, or the meat has been it's already been spiced up, so now it has more absorption flavor, more absorption capacity, either because it has slits or because it's spicy, and it's boiling hot from your grill. Also, it completely absorbs the milk completely. Okay.
That's not salted milk. Would it be regular milk as well?
Yes, regular milk as well.
So it mentions here specifically salted milk. That's what I was wondering.
Good point. If you look in the Shach 22, what does he say? Shach 22.
Explains the reason why the boiling meat is considered higher, even though it sinks into milk.
What?
Even if it's completely cold. Sorry.
There you go. Shach 2.
Even if it's
Shach 22. What does it say?
There's two.
yeah. And
There's like A and B.
Shach 2. There's two 22s. Only one idea here.
There's one.
It says there that he didn't have to say salted, even if it was completely not salted. If it falls in because the top is hot, it's absorbed the surface layer.
Does not say that here.
Doesn't say that in Shach 22.
No.
It should.
There's two. There's one that says even if it's completely cold.
If what's completely cold?
Milk.
Yeah, and
the other one explains the reason why the boiling meat is considered the higher, even though it sinks into milk.
That's Shach or Taz?
That is
Shach.
22.
The Shach 22 says, Eina mechuven. It's not clear. More than that, Havle Lashmuni should have said, Afilu nimlach klal. Even if the one below wasn't salted at all, to even do it right, that because the top one is hot, like anything that's hot goes into something cold that absorbs through a surface layer. So yes, it's nothing to do with the bottom being salty, as per Shach.
No, not okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cafe.
They put it in 25?
Yeah.
I don't know why that number is 25. Doesn't line up with 25 here.
Also, it says also the milk is forbidden.
No, that's something else.
That's cafe. I'm saying that.
No.
That describes regardless of whether the milk is salted or not at all.
The one on top gets absorbed to a surface layer. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now here's the Ramah. This is the main important thing. Ready? Here we go.
Because it's coming from the Ramah.
Sorry.
They have it in the Ramah. The Shach quoting the Ramah. That's why it's cafe.
I don't see in Shach Chafei though. No, that's something else. Okay. Let's look at that Ramah.
Reset.
What?
Free set.
Who adin? The Rama adds. The same thing is true. The Shulchan Aruch said if the meat was grilled and that's why it's hot, right? And it fell in. So it says the Rama. It's nothing to do with whether it's put on a grill or baked. The point is it's hot. Who adin afo and mavushta, whether it was baked or cooked. Same thing happens because anything that's hot that goes into anything that's cold will absorb to a surface layer. And if it's got slits and it's salty, it's going to absorb completely.
Right.
Now, here's the main point. Listen to this Rama. The Yesh mother say, even if it's completely cold. So it was cooked.
Yeah.
Not raw. It was cooked, grilled or baked. Now it's cooled down. Didn't know the same thing applies. Which means your steak that was grilled, that cooled down, totally cold, because that grilled steak is an accordion that has slits,
No,
slats,
assume it doesn't have slits.
will indicate if
Here we said it.
here it's saying if it does have slits, or if it's spicy,
spicy.
which hopefully you put some Montreal steak
Yeah.
spice on your steak,
Yeah.
then it's going to absorb the milk completely, even if it's cold.
Right.
The rinsing off will not be enough.
No.
So the original din, which said that meat that falls into milk can be rinsed off and it's okay, is only if the meat was
Not spiced.
not spiced and it doesn't have any
And it wasn't
slats, or it's completely raw.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Again,
It's
this
kind of raw meat that's spiced completely.
yes, and it could
it's-
have slits too.
And it's fine.
No, if it's raw,
Yeah.
wait a second. If it's raw, slits, and spicy, will it absorb? Seemingly no. It has to be cooked. Sorry, it has to be cooked and either slats or spicy. So combination of one of the two out of three.
Well,
No, sorry,
both.
has to be cooked
Oh, yeah.
with one of the other two.
Or both.
Or both, but cooked with spicy or cooked with
Right.
slits.
And raw won't do
And
it.
raw won't. It doesn't seem like raw will do anything.
Okay.
Yes. This should be our practice in Ein Hefsim Merubah with no great loss. Final sif. Ein bas b'chol nasa ayde malicha, ayde kavush. Milk and meat will not become prohibited via salting or through pickling. Elabachila only in eating. Elabana, but not in benefit. You can have benefit. You may have benefit, but you can sell it. Why is that?
Because it's rabbinic.
Because basar b'cholav is only also da'iraisa
Cooking.
when it's cooked. Bishul. If it's not bishul, it's only the rabbanon, and therefore the rabbanon were only geyser, only put their enactment so far as not being able to eat it, but you may derive benefit. That's pretty good. We made it the whole tzaddik aleph. Okay, so God willing, we'll have another chazar on Sunday
Right.
morning.
No.
After which we're going to distribute the test to be brought back the next Sunday.
Oh, so we're gonna have a week. Okay.
You can do the test on your own, yeah.
Oh, so we're starting this test. It's already.
Oh, it's past this.
That was another week. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Also not.
Is the test open book, closed book, or?
open book,
Open
Oh.
book.
open book
It's
test,
just
If they're sending.
and take it and bring it back.
Yeah, but I mean, it
Complete.
doesn't necessarily mean.
It's going to be a digital file which you can fill out on a
Oh.
computer. If your mom want to print it out, you can print it out and write it down. But it's easier for the people on Martin if you write it. You type it.
You looked
Okay.
it over, so I'm assuming you already looked.
So I looked it over. He gave me a whole list of questions, and I can select from them. He gave me a few different tests, and I can make a combination of which questions I want in there. So I have to do that, God willing, tomorrow. I cleared out an hour to do that tomorrow.
An hour.
You have to go through each one and make sure.
No, I'm saying that I don't know if that's enough. I've done tests like when I made.
No, not to write the next.
No.
They made the test already. I just
No,
select the
no,
questions that I want.
Even selecting questions takes longer.
More than an hour.
Because you got to make sure that like
Okay.
everyone knows.
That's what I want to do. I want to make sure that everybody.
I just say I did that for. I did that for Tom.
I want to make sure that everything that's in the test is covered in our shiurim.
Okay.
And I went through question banks and I had to select.
Okay, wonderful day, everybody. Wonderful evening.
Time.